Hello YouTube, how is everyone doing? It's Professional here. Welcome back to my playthrough of Apollo Justice, the Ace Attorney Trilogy. We're continuing where we left off, but we are doing the next part of the final case in Dual Destinies. Now, you guys have told me in the comments something really bad and something really crazy that's just gonna basically just cause me to rethink everything is gonna happen in this trial. So, I'm just really curious what this crazy thing is gonna happen that you guys have been telling me about. But let's play it here. There's apparently gonna be some giant twist with this trial. This is also going to be a weird trial because Edgeworth is trying to help us at the same time, too. December 23, 11 p.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby, number 5. And also, out of all the cases that I've done recently, this case has actually gotten the most views. People have been really interested in this murder case the most. Okay. I did a little research. I looked into those special psych locks you mentioned, Mr. Nick. You did. That's great. I really appreciate it. A red psych lock protects a secret a person is consciously trying to hide. If the person folds under questioning, the lock breaks and the truth comes out. Okay, what do the black psych locks mean? Yup, that's exactly how I got the truth out of Detective Fulbright and Director Cosmos. But a black psych lock protects a secret from the deepest place in a person's heart. A secret that the person isn't even consciously aware of. What? So how can somebody be holding a secret that they're not truly aware of? That's what a black psych lock means? So even they don't know it's there. Athena isn't trying to keep anything from you on purpose. For some reason, part of her heart and memories are sealed off, even from herself. Huh. Wonder what that's supposed to mean. Okay, so all I have to do is break the psych locks. According to my research, a black psych lock is like a heavy chain wrapped directly around one's heart. If they are ripped off by force, it could cause permanent damage to a person's soul. In other words, if I'm not careful, I could traumatize Athena for good. Ugh. Pearls, could you stay by Athena's side? She must be suffering under the weight of such a heavy burden. Alright. But will you be alright by yourself, Mr. Nick? I'm up against Edgeworth. I have to be able to give this trial all of my focus and strength. And you can't do that if I'm there. I'll just hold you back. No, that's not it. I just meant I can relax and concentrate if I knew you were with Athena. You're the only one who can do it, Pearls. Alright. I'll do it then. Good luck, Mr. Nick. Good. Now that my mind is at ease, I better get ready. I'll just tidy up the evidence and take out what I don't need. It's time to end this nightmare that started 7 years ago. This is gonna be a weird courtroom. It's gonna be this blown up. December 20, District, Court. Courtroom number 4. And, we're gonna be facing Edgeworth. Defense, prosecution, and judge. There are even people in the gallery. The roof has been completely blown off and the walls have collapsed. But today, this ruin is my battleground. Oh my god, look at this. Day 1 court is now in session. Look at this courtroom.
Court, or some fascial lie thereof, is now in session for the trial of Athena Sykes.
Not a facet mile, old man. This is a proper official trial. Take this more seriously or you start hearing the bones of the hostages snap. Please try not to upset Miss Blackwell. I'm begging you.
Court is now in session for the very serious and very proper trial of Athena Sykes.
This is no trial. It's nothing more than a ridiculous farce. What did you say? Edgeworth, did you not hear what I just said to his honor? However, this ridiculous farce is a very important meaning for our legal system. Recall the case of the UR1 incident, in which a prosecutor was found guilty of murder. That case ushered in the odious dark age of the law. I see what you're after. If we can find the real truth behind that case today. Precisely. The darkness will be dispelled and glory shall be restored to the court system.
Prosecutor Edgeworth, you sound as if you know something of the truth.
I do indeed. A new suspect has emerged in the UR1 case. For 7 years, Simon Blackwell has refused to speak in order to cover for someone else. Brace yourself, Phoenix. Here it comes. Who is he covering for? I'm sorry, right? But the situation is what it is, and I must do what I must. The prosecution moves to indict Athena Sykes on the count of murder in the first degree.
Regardless the circumstance, I intend to question the defendant with all I have. For that is a part of my creed.
Then you'd better bring it.
If the two of you are ready. Court is now in session for the trial of Athena Sykes.
Your Honor, the defense was born ready.
The prosecution is also ready.
Edgeworth is an honest prosecutor, so he's not going to try any dirty tricks. And also about Edgeworth, he is Phoenix's best friend also. He's also my favorite character in the Ace Attorney series. Edgeworth is actually getting his own game coming out in September on the PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X, or Xbox One I should say, and PC. And so I can't wait to play that. It's going to be remastered, and in that game, you're going to actually be playing as a prosecutor, where all the Ace Attorney games you play as a lawyer, and that one you play as Edgeworth prosecuting people. This immense tension between us, it's like we're picking up right where we left off. It's my duty to clear Prosecutor Blackwell false accusations and end this insanity. But I have no intention of losing Miss Sykes either. She's a very promising young lawyer. I know without a doubt that Athena is innocent. But I don't think Prosecutor Blackwell did it either. He's covering for someone, but who? So, do you have any clue who was responsible for the sabotage? At the very least, I know it wasn't Simon Blackwell. I don't know enough to identify the true culprit, but it's clear what that person is. But it's simply a spy. The true culprit is a spy. It's going to be hard to convince anyone of that when I barely believe it myself. But I don't have a choice if I want to save Athena and Blackwell and expose the spy.
Now then, Chief Prosecutor Edgeworth.
No need for the Chief Prosecutor bit, Your Honor. I'm here as a simple prosecutor.
Very well. Your opening statement, please. Prosecutor Edgeworth. Although I've been known of late to give an impressive opening statement myself.
In all the trials I have ever seen, only the prosecution gives an opening statement.
Oh, of course, you're right. I was just joking. Just having a little fun.
So he wasn't doing them just out of fear. Interesting. Let's start with a brief overview of the UR-1 incident. The incident occurred at the Cosmos Space Center 7 years ago on October 7th. The victim psychologist, Metis Sykes, was killed in the robotics lab on the 4th floor. Athena's mother. Simon Blackwell, a young prosecutor at the time, was found guilty of the crime. There were two deciding factors that led to his guilty verdict. One, Blackwell was the only person in the corridor to the lab at the time of the murder. And two, this photo, which captured the moment of the crime.
Very incriminating evidence indeed.
And this is not really proof that Blackwell did it, because we can't see Blackwell's face, so it could just be somebody else in the photograph that looks like Blackwell. And the second thing is Blackwell could have just picked up the sword in shock. That's what he just could have done. And remember that Athena patched up those robots, so you see like Athena's patching the robot arm there, remember that too.
It would appear that the only conclusion is that Prosecutor Blackwell did indeed.
Are you kidding me? I'm not accepting any conclusion of the kind. This opening statement is over. Now hurry up and call the witness.
Excuse me, Miss Blackwell, but we must follow proper procedure for these things, you know.
Or perhaps we should heed her wishes, Your Honor. She is a trial sponsor, after all. Besides, the courtroom is chilly, and sitting for too long can't be good for your back.
Oh, you are very kind to show such a concern for the welfare of the elderly.
As skilled as ever at playing the court puppeteer, I see. The prosecution calls its first witness. A witness who decided to bring forth new testimony after 7 long years. New testimony? And just who is this witness anyway? Good question. Who's the witness? Oh, it's Fulbright. Okay.
Bobby Fulbright's the name. In justice we trust.
What are you doing here?
I'm just here to speak for the hostage taker, Miss Ara Blackwell. She says she's too busy with what confining and threatening the hostages and all.
That doesn't seem to stop her from constantly chiming in, though, Klonko. I'm nothing more than an observer in this. Do your best. I'm watching you. Believing her brother innocent, Miss Blackwell has been conducting her own investigation. And though her current actions are hardly lawful, I think we can at least hear her theory.
I have here Miss Blackwell's notes on the investigation she conducted. And I'll be giving a testimony based on these notes. Here I go.
Okay, let's hear this. Aura Blackwell's theory.
Simon isn't the murderer. He was trying to cover for someone else. Someone else was at the scene at the time. They say Simon committed the murder. I mean, if he really was out to steal that moon rock, then why the rolling case? Because he was using it to hide someone inside, that's why. And the only person small enough to fit inside that case was Athena Sykes.
Is he claiming that...
And that's Miss Blackwell's theory. It totally goes in the face of the official ruling, huh?
Is he claiming that Athena... That was like... That case was like 7 years ago. Athena is like... Hang on a second. Athena is 18. So, if he's claiming that that case happened 7 years ago, he's claiming that Athena was 11 years old when she impaled her mother with a katana, and then Blackwell was covering for her? What? No. That makes no sense. It might be... Blackwell might think that Athena might be doing it, so it's possible he actually is covering for her, because, you know, he liked her mother, possibly, maybe he had a romantic interest in her, and so he wants to protect, you know, his friend or lover's, daughter, and he thinks that she's guilty, but she couldn't have possibly done it either. That theory is ridiculous, that an 11-year-old would just, you know, impale somebody with a katana, and then he would hide her in, like, the Moonrock case. It makes no sense.
About the case, he mentions there were other rolling cases like that one in the lab. But they're not far for traveling.
Oh, the rolling cases, right, not the,
they're apparently for moving parts and equipment.
I vaguely remember seeing 3 cases, all different sizes. Yup, those are the 3 cases right there on the left side.
At the last trial, they thought that Prosecutor Blackwell used the case to steal the rock. And they had a perfectly good reason to think that, too. You see, there's a security camera in the corridor that leads to the robotics lab. And that camera captured footage of Blackwell leaving the scene with the case.
This isn't good, too. This is making her theory seem more credible. You can see why that footage helped to bring his trial to a quick end. Very convincing, that's for sure. 7-year-old video. Video showing the corridor of the crime scene. Blackwell's the only one to pass through at the time of the crime.
That case, by the way, was later discovered outside on the Space Center grounds.
Let's see. Oh, so we only have a picture. We don't have a video here. But again, you don't see Blackwell's face here. You notice that in both of these, you don't see Blackwell's face. It looks like it's Blackwell's back, but we can't necessarily prove it's Blackwell. Speaking of after the incident, where was the defendant Athena Sykes found? She was found on the 5th floor of the Space Center in the Sykes family residence. Prosecutor Blackwell most likely brought her there after the incident. In addition, it's unknown where Miss Sykes was at the estimated time of death. Miss Sykes was too confused by the shock of her mother's death to give proper testimony. And the thing about this is, you know, it's kind of really messed up that Edgeworth is going along with this theory. I guess Edgeworth wants the truth, so he's not like a scumbag, but it's kind of messed up that he's going along with this theory, considering the fact that Edgeworth was actually accused of murder when he was a child. I don't want to spoil it, but there's actually a case in the original trilogy where he's actually accused of committing a murder when he was a child. Miss Sykes was too confused by the shock.
Miss Sykes was too confused by the shock of her mother's death to give proper testimony. And there was no witnesses or evidence to tell us where she might have been.
So what you're saying is Miss Sykes didn't have an alibi. That is what the evidence is saying, yes.
I understand the reasoning behind the theory, but I'm far from convinced. The victim is the accused's mother. Are you actually claiming an 11-year-old girl?
Of course, the girl had a very strong motive. What's that?
Dr. Sykes was a psychologist who wrote many papers about speech and emotions. You're aware of Athena Sykes' special ability, aren't you, Your Honor? Are you referring to that therapy thing? Yeah, she's done quite a few times in court.
The ability to read emotions from speech, and the subject of her mother's research.
Well, as long as it benefits society, I don't see any particular problem researching it.
I don't like where this is going. Not one bit. Dr. Sykes was so intent on her research, she forced her daughter to undergo experiments. What?
Prosecutor Edgeworth, are you seriously suggesting? I've done my best to be delicate, but even you can't deny it to be true, Mr. Wright. No longer able to withstand the anguish of the experiments, Miss Sykes felt her only choice was to kill her own mother. What? This is the first time we're hearing about this. We have to... Athena has to be brought in as a witness. She has to be brought in as a witness on this. Order in the court. What a tragic story. I hardly want to believe it myself. But we must proceed. Mr. Wright, if you could. Detective Fulbright, please refer to the notes. Look, on the picture we see Edgeworth's face now, instead of Blackwell. Aura Blackwell's theory. Simon isn't the murderer. He was trying to cover for someone.
Hold it!
So, Prosecutor Blackwell willingly accepted a death sentence to protect someone else?
Yes, that is precisely what Miss Blackwell appears to believe.
And that is what I believe as well. Prosecutor Blackwell is no murderer, Mr. Wright. But Athena Sykes certainly didn't kill anyone either, Mr. Edgeworth. So it appears neither of us can afford to go easy on the other. Fine. I expected no less.
Oh, I remember this tense atmosphere. It's so invigorating.
The reason the judge remembers this is because he remembers this same judge was actually the judge on multiple trials where Edgeworth and Phoenix fought in the original games. I did play the original game.
I'm only reading notes here, but yeah, I feel extra invigorated too, so let's keep going. Someone else was at the scene at the time. They say Simon committed the murder.
Hold it!
But that's just speculation.
Objection!
No, Miss Blackwell has proper grounds for her claims.
Objection!
What grounds? Then why didn't you say so in the first place? You're the one who screamed, "Hold it!" and cut me off. Fine, so maybe I jumped the gun by a teeny weeny bit.
Now I know what they mean when they say close enough to argue. Moving on. I mean, if he really was out to steal that moon rock, then why the rolling case?
Hold it!
This rolling case, I suppose you mean the one that existed in the photo with Prosecutor Blackwell in it. Was absent when the crime scene photos were taken. Yes, that's the one, and Miss Blackwell has drawn a conclusion from these two photos.
Yes, and what is that conclusion?
You're the one for notes.
Oh, right. Of course. Reading them now, so why the rolling case? Because he was using it to hide someone inside, that's why.
Hold it!
And how do you propose he hid a person inside one of those cases? Have you forgotten that we saw just a thing only the other day? At your own daughter's magic show. She fit a grown person into a small box. Oh yeah. Way to ruin the memory of a good day.
A magic show? I wish you would have thought to invite me. Actually, I would have liked to go too.
Oh man. My apologies. I'll invite you both next time. I promise. Oh my god. So, wait a minute. What were we talking about again in the box?
Prosecutor Blackwell is using the case to hide someone. And the only person small enough to fit inside that case was Athena Sykes.
Hold it!
But that's nothing more than conjecture, and it's hardly the only possibility. That's right. There really is no proof here. Unless we hear it directly from Blackwell that he hid Athena in there, that's not really proof. This is all just circumstantial at this point. And it's very questionable circumstantial evidence. They have no direct evidence that Athena hid inside the box. There's no evidence for that.
In that case, what do you think Prosecutor Blackwell had in that case?
Well, that's for you to prove, not really for us. I think it was the moon rock. There were 3 cases at the scene. Prosecutor Blackwell used the largest one. The moon rock was egg-shaped and only about 8 inches in diameter. It wouldn't have made any sense to use the largest case there just to move that rock. Be that as it may, it doesn't prove Miss Sykes was inside. Hold on a second, let me take a look at something. There's something I just realized. Where is his sword? Where's the sword? he could have put the sword in the box. Because the sword is tall, too. And let me ask you this. Can you come up with a better theory of what was in the case? The sword.
Well, Mr. Wright, can you?
Yikes. Give a guy some time to think. Let's see. Should I try to bluff my way through that what could have been in that case? Bluff or don't bluff? Don't bluff. I guess I better wait and see how it goes. Clever theory, but it doesn't look like they have any solid proof. If I push, maybe I can uncover some flaws in it.
Hold it!
I wonder what happens if I bluff. Let me just try to bluff. Hang on. Let's see what happens if I bluff.
Objection!
I wonder if he says something stupid. I know exactly what Prosecutor Black will carry from the scene. Just have to find something else that was missing, right? No sweat.
Oh, I'd be very interested in hearing your theory. If it's true, that is.
This is a crime scene photo taken after Prosecutor Blackwell left, correct? All you have to do is compare this with this photo of Prosecutor Blackwell to see what's missing. If he took something with him, then it should be in one of these photos. Lady Luck, don't fail me now.
Alright then, Mr. Wright. Let us hear your theory.
What did Prosecutor Blackwell take from the scene of the murder? Oh, the sword is there in the picture. Never mind, it's there on the floor. It's not the sword. It's the robotic arm. It's the arm. Look, you see the pink wire near the table where the body is. You see that? This is that. It's this. This arm is gone.
Take that!
Please notice that there is a robot part on top of the cart in this photo. However, in this photo taken after the crime, the robot part is gone. In other words, this part is something that was taken from the scene of the crime.
You do appear to be right. I don't see it in the second picture. But just a piece of junk. How important could it be?
Is it really just an insignificant robot part? Speaking of which... What are you looking at? I'm gonna start charging for each glance per eyeball. Stingy. What happened to the age of free previews? Your Honor, about this robot part, doesn't it look like it could be an arm from that robot there?
Well, now that you mention it, it does, doesn't it? But the case is still too big to practical for just a moon rock and a robot arm.
Was it really just the one arm that was in there? If it wasn't Athena in the case, then maybe... I believe there's another robot at the scene that looks just like the one here. Your Honor, is it the defense's assertion that it was the other robot that was in the case?
What?
That is a possibility. What if it was a robot that killed her? A robot could have done it. We can't be certain that part belonged to a robot. It did.
Yes, it looks like the arm
Of the one before, but it could be something else entirely. Besides, it's wrapped entirely in bandaging, making it difficult to verify what it is. No, we have the proof. The photo. I know for a fact that it is a robot arm. I can even tell which robot it belonged to, just by looking at it. With this information, we can investigate whether it was there at the time or not.
Mr. Wright, I thought you were more of the technologically illiterate type. When did you become such an expert? I feel somehow abandoned.
Not to worry, Your Honor. I still know next to nothing about machines. But I know this piece of evidence proves which robot the arm belonged to. I know Right here, yep. This, see? You see the bandaged arm right here? See this? It's right here. It's the bandaged arm. The Hat 1 exhibit.
Take that!
The robot in this picture is named Ponko. Take a look at Ponko's arm. It was Miss Sykes who bandaged it up like that.
She must have thought that machines heal in the same way that people do. What an adorable, naive mistake. It reminds me of my own grandchild.
The robot arm at the crime scene had the same bandaging wrapped around it. In other words, this robot arm could belong to none other than Ponko.
Order in the court. Order, I say. Prosecutor Edgeworth, what do you have to say to this?
I can see that the robot is about the same size as a child, but it cannot grab its knees and curl itself up into a ball. Even if it was the largest of the cases, the robot couldn't have possibly fit in there. The case does come up to about mid-thigh on Prosecutor Blackwell.
I see your point. The robot is much taller than that.
It got me there. Then did Prosecutor Blackwell make Ponko fit into the case by dismantling her? Of course Ponko would fit. All Prosecutor Blackwell would do is dismantle her. Once taken apart, the robot could have easily fit inside the rolling case. It appears to be a robot assembly device. Disassemble anything in a flash. Push the dismantle button. That sounds pretty neat. Can I push it, Mr. Nick?
It sounds rather violent, but Mr. Wright does have a point there.
Objection!
Except that there was a body on the table where robots are dismantled and assembled. There would have been no room to take the robot apart.
Objection!
But what if it wasn't done on the table? What if the katana was used instead?
You mean the sword?
Yes, Your Honor. Miss Blackwell, I'd like your opinion as a woman of science. Isn't it true that the katana could have been used to take the robot apart? I suppose so. Their joints aren't made of very tough material. A blade could slice through them. Thank you for your expert opinion, Miss Blackwell. Thanks to you, we now know. Now, here's the thing is, the only time opinions are allowed in court is when they're expert opinions. When you have an expert that can basically tell you the chances of something, like, it's somebody who's knowledgeable in a specific field, and they can tell you the chances of something. You know, like somebody that might be knowledgeable about a specific car model, for example. Like, they might be knowledgeable about a car, and they might, like, you know, what are the chances that a car like this could, like, break down? Like, you know, without that much, that's, like, brand new. Like, you know, stuff like that. Somebody that's, like, knowledgeable of a specific subject, and the guy could say, oh, you know, I've worked on these cars, I know these cars, and it's, like, you know, my opinion that this. So an expert opinion can be used in court, but it has to be somebody that's very knowledgeable about that. You can't just bring in somebody that's, like, you know, some random person that's, like an amateur. It has to be a professional. It has to be somebody that's very knowledgeable in it. Thank you for your expert opinion, Miss Blackwell. Thanks to you, we now know that the existence of the severed arm in this photo proves that Ponko was taken apart. In addition, since the rest of Ponko was not found at the scene, we can conclude that the true meaning of this photo is very different from the original interpretation.
You can't mean...
That's exactly what I mean. This photo does not capture the moment of the murder. It is instead a picture of the moment after the robot was sliced apart. The blood you see where the arm was cut off was transferred there by the bloody katana. Most likely the rest of Ponko was scattered around Prosecutor Blackwell's feet. Not hearing this! Therefore, was transported inside that case not the defendant but a robot. Miss Sykes never was at the scene at the time of the murder. My head, my body. Where am I? Ah!
Order! Order in the court!
It's true that Ponko was found in pieces after the murder. And I'll admit I repaired her myself, but afterwards... The photo shows Blackwell taking the robot apart. There's a blood stain on the end of the robot's arm. Yes, I'm finally making some progress. Hopefully I've gotten at least one step closer. Improving both Athena and Prosecutor Blackwell.
Objection!
Well played, Mr. Wright. You've made your point abundantly clear. I conceded that it wasn't the defendant inside the rolling case, but the robot. Alright, what's going on here? It's never good when he plays things this straight.
Does the prosecution withdraw its claim that the defendant was carried from the scene?
No, Your Honor. My claim hasn't changed.
Objection!
But Ponko and Miss Sykes couldn't have both been inside the
Objection!
case. The notion that the case was used to carry Miss Sykes was Miss Blackwell's theory. I have been of a different opinion from the outset. Now I finally have the opportunity to voice my theory. Thanks to the defense.
Edgeworth.
He's been one step ahead of me this whole time.
In that case, how do you propose the defendant left the crime scene?
Simple. The footage only shows Prosecutor Blackwell from behind. What's more, he's holding his arm in front of his body, as if it were holding something or someone. That's hardly evidence. It really isn't. I have proof. The surcoat Prosecutor Blackwell is wearing. The victim's blood was found in the front of it, and the stain had a highly distinctive shape.
A blood stain with a distinctive shape. Please continue, Prosecutor Edgeworth.
7 years ago, the defendant was known to constantly wear a certain item, of which there is only one in the world, a special pair of headphones made just for her. She always wore these big, heavy-looking headphones. She said her mother made them for her, as part of her research. Analysis showed the blood stain to be in the exact same shape as these headphones. In other words, this was no more mere blood splatter. The blood went from the victim's body to the headphones, and then was imprinted onto Prosecutor Blackwell's coat like a stamp.
A most gruesome stamp indeed.
Blackwell carried Miss Sykes, who had been hit by splatter, away from the crime scene. This proves that Athena Sykes was without question present at the crime scene. And that concludes the prosecution's argument. But why take the robot apart? Why?
Order! If the defendant was indeed at the scene, it deepens the suspicion against her.
You want to know what I think? You want to know what I think? I don't think he ever carried Athena. I think that the robot was hacked by the spy. The spy hacked the robot, somehow gained control of the robot, and used the robot to kill kill her. That's basically what I think happened. The robot impaled her. And, what's the victim's name here? Metis Sykes. So, Metis. So, I think that the robot was used to impale her, to murder her. That's basically what I think. And I think that Blackwell knows who hacked the robot, and he's trying to cover it up.
Objection!
But we've also shown that the robot was there at the scene as well. I hope you're not making the ridiculous claim that a simple robot was the real murderer. I don't really think that, no, but you can't say the possibility isn't there. Detective Fulbright, was the robot questioned at the time?
No, I don't see any record of it. I believe it was considered unrelated to the case.
But as it turned out, the robot was actually integrally related. Your Honor, the defense would like to call Ponko to the stand.
Oh, a robot witness. Order! Order in the court. Prosecutor Edgeworth, what do you think about this?
Mr. Wright has called all manner of witnesses to the stand over the years. He called a parrot to the stand also. So why not a robot? Nothing surprising me anymore of him.
Very well. I will allow the witness. Bailiff, please summon the robot named Ponko.
Witness, please state your name and occupation. So, you know what's kind of crazy? I kind of predicted this happening. At the start of Case 4, I actually asked you guys a question at the start of Case 4. And I asked you guys a question. Should robots be used as witnesses? Because if something's on camera, it's on camera. But if a robot witnesses something, should a robot be used as a witness? That's the thing about that. And it turns out I was right that, you know, this is what's going to end up happening, is a robot is going to end up being brought in as a witness. So I kind of predicted this happening. But let me know in the comments, guys. In the future, humans are eventually going to develop robots that can walk around on their own. I mean, we kind of already have them. You know, we already even have robots that clean up, you know, around our buildings for us. But eventually, we're going to have robots that are going to be able to walk around on their own, pick stuff up, and see stuff. And the question is going to be, do you think that a robot should be able to give testimony? Do you think that if it's a robot that's able to see and talk, do you think that robot should be able to give testimony? Like, let me know in the comments. Do you think that they should or shouldn't be? Because that could be a very big gray area. If I know we're not at that point yet in advancements, but I can see that in the future that I can see that people, both the prosecution and defense, could argue about that. They could say it's unreliable to bring in a robot as a witness. So I could see the argument that they wouldn't like that. My name is not Witness. My name is Ponko. Yes, I realize that, but when you are at the witness stand, you are the witness. No, I'm not. I'm Ponko. Say it with me. Ponko. One utterly inflexible little robot. You're the last person who should be calling anybody inflexible.
You remind me of my grandchild who just learned his own name. Oh, how precious.
Alright, Ponko. I'm going to ask you some questions. Questions? You have questions? Hooray! What are your questions? I want to know if you were there at the scene of the murder of Metis Sykes. It was 7 years ago on the 7th of October, around 2 p.m. in the robotics lab. Certainly. Just one moment. Searching data. Search complete. Yes, I was there in the robotics lab. Oh, this is going to be interesting. It would seem this robot's testimony is necessary to the case after all. This is great. Just knew Ponko must have seen something important. A murder committed right before this poor little girl's eyes.
It's inexcusable.
This judge seems ready to adopt Ponko as another grandchild.
So, little Ponko, do you think you can give us your testimony today?
This is gonna be good. Let's see what Ponko says. What I saw. I went to the robotics lab about 2 p.m. for my regular recharge. Just as I was about to charge up, Athena came in and hugged Mommy Metis. And then Mommy Metis fell down. After that, I was recharging, so I don't know anything. After I charged up, I was clearing the room, and Mr. Simon came in. And then an error occurred. There is no data after that point. An error occurred.
Well, it sounds like the defendant was without question at the scene. However, it doesn't appear that the witness saw the actual moment of the murder.
I disagree. This testimony shows that the defendant did indeed commit the crime. I think Ponko might be the killer. That's what I think. I think Ponko got hacked. At the end of the day, we mustn't forget that this witness is still a machine. Being a robot, its understanding and capacity to express itself are limited.
So, what are you suggesting?
The witness's statements need to be interpreted. For example, the terms hugged, and then later fell down. Adults don't usually fall down after being hugged by a child.
They don't, but...
Yes, what this witness's statements are telling us is that the defendant stabbed the victim with the murder weapon during this moment. What? Before Miss Sykes hugged Dr. Sykes, did the two of them converse? Yes, they did. They spoke to each other very loudly, but I don't know what they said. Athena's usually so quiet, so I was surprised. Spoke very loudly. We can interpret this to mean they argued. I see.
Murder after a heated argument, and then the victim fell down. I agree that it does sound like a reasonable interpretation. However, Ponko doesn't seem to remember anything that happened after that.
When I am recharging, I go into sleep mode. But I remember everything before that. I have very good memory. You may as well admit defeat now, right? A cross-examination would be useless. Don't be ridiculous. A cross-examination is never useless. Until now, think about it. Robots don't lie. This robot is both an important witness and a valuable evidence at the same time. Nevertheless, I will have my cross-examination. The robot could be hacked to tell a story. You have to remember that in case, too, because Phoenix can make the argument the robot's memory has been tampered with. Ponko is probably the killer, but Ponko doesn't realize that she killed Metis. I see you haven't changed. You never were one to worry about wasting time.
Very well. Even if it may be a waste of time, you may proceed, Mr. Wright.
I'll show you both just how fruitful any cross-examination can be. You know, Ponko's smile creeps me out. Doesn't it creep you out too? So I think Ponko is the killer. What I saw. I went to the robotics lab at about 2 p.m. For my regular recharge. Your regular recharge? What is that exactly? I have to refill my battery's power or else it stopped working. I go to the lab to do that. So that recharge occurred around 2 p.m., around the time of the murder. That's right. I go every day at 2 p.m. Just as I was about to charge up, Athena came in and hugged Mommy Metis.
Hold it!
Hugged her, huh? Which Edgeworth took her to mean stabbed her with a weapon. You said that the two of them were talking before Miss Sykes hugged her mother, is that right? Yes, they were talking very loudly, but I couldn't tell what they were saying. Couldn't tell. Even though they were speaking so loudly. I'm only allowed to listen to voices that are directed at me. If it listened to every voice, it would be a little better than a mobile eavesdropper. Well, that explains why some of Ponko's testimony is so vague. It's a shame that our little friend wasn't listening in, however. We could have learned what they were talking about just before Dr. Sykes was killed. Now then, what happened after that? And then Mommy Metis fell down. After that, I was recharging, so I don't know anything.
Hold it!
I don't want to delve too deeply here, but... could you tell us how the victim appeared and acted at the moment? Mommy Metis was very surprised when she was hugged. I heard her heart pound. Her heart. Mr. Wright, have you forgotten about this document we found in the robotics lab? Those robots have a heartbeat detection system. Now that he mentions it, I do remember reading something like that there. Can the Ponko series features can determine the presence of a human with the heartbeat detection system, recognize people by scanning their spacesuit or uniform and jacket ID, can also recognize a person by facial features once the feature has been registered, can infer people's emotions by analyzing their tone of voice and communicates with them. They detect the presence of people and the sound of their heartbeats. Wait a minute. That means if Dr. Sykes really did die at that moment... Ponko, how is Dr. Sykes after she fell down? Could you still hear the sound of her heartbeat? Let's see. The moment she fell, her heart was pounding. After that, I don't know. I started recharging just then. Of all the unlucky things, if you had heard anything after that, it could have possibly proved that the hug wasn't actually the moment of the murder. I'm very sorry. I'm afraid I don't know. I'm very sorry. The robot is designed to go into sleep mode after automatically, so it can't be helped. But it does appear it detected an increased heart rate at the moment of the stabbing. Remember that Metis and Athena apparently weren't that close from what we heard earlier. That she spent more time with the robots than she did with her daughter. And so if her daughter came in and hugged her, she might have been surprised by that. So her heart might have started beating. That's also a possibility. After Mommy Metis' heart started pounding, in surprise she fell by the window. It was the round window on the workbench side of the room. The workbench, huh? Ponko must be talking about that table to the right of where that giant robot is now. Is there something critical in Ponko's statement just now? Let me see here. After Mommy Metis' heart started pounding in surprise, she fell by the window. It was a round window on the workbench side of the room. There is something. Your Honor, I believe the statement is critical. I'd like to add it to her testimony. Very well.
Ponko, could you please add that statement to your testimony? That's a good little girl.
Mommy Metis fell down near the round window on the workbench side of the room.
Hold it!
Let's see. There are 2 round windows in the robotics lab. Which one did you mean? The one on the right, near the hanging scroll. The hanging scroll is Mommy Metis' prized possession. Okay, in the pictures of the crime scene from 7 years ago, there is definitely hanging scroll and a Japanese theater mask hanging on the workbench side wall. Okay, there's the theater mask. But is there some problem with this statement? After I charged up, I was cleaning the room and Mr. Simon came in. Prosecutor Blackwell, I wonder what he went there for. His objective? I don't know. I don't know. I guess I can't very well ask Ponko to speculate. So what happened after Prosecutor Blackwell arrived? And then an error occurred. There is no data after that point. You don't remember what happened next? An error, huh? Wonder if... all data is suddenly off at that point. I don't know anything after that. The answer to that question is right here. According to the defense's theory, this photo shows when the robot was being taken apart. Exactly. We can conclude that Honko's error was the result of her being dismantled. Indeed. The bodies of these robots are designed to be controlled remotely by a separate computer.
Yes.
That's basically what Miss Blackwell explained to us too. He said that her heart, arts, and memories are stored on a separate computer. When the witness was taken apart, she lost the use of her body, but not her memories. That's how she is still able to give testimony about the events of that day.
Fascinating. It's as if she can be seriously wounded, but her soul still burns.
There are a few parts of Honko's testimony that are hard to interpret. Edward chose to interpret hugged as stabbed. But I'd better try to iron out who did what, and to whom for myself. Hold on, Athena. I'm going to save you. This is where she fell down.
Hold it!
Press this again. Let's see. There are 2 round windows in the robotics lab. Which one do you mean? The one on the right near the hanging scroll. The hanging scroll is Mommy Menace's prized possession. Okay. In the pictures of the crime scene from 7 years ago, there is definitely a hanging scroll and a Japanese theater mask hanging on the workbench side wall. But is there some problem with this statement? Mommy Menace fell down near the round window on the workbench side of the room. It has to be this one. Something's not right here.
Objection!
Honko, your statement may have just inspired a breakthrough. I was helpful? Hooray! I'm so happy. Just to be sure, let's go over it again, okay? The victim fell near the window on the workbench side of the room. However, her body was discovered on the operating table. Yep, exactly. I mean, that is what I was thinking. It was the about the table, but there was no, I was more thinking about there being no blood there at the scene.
But the operating table and the workbench are 2 different locations.
Exactly, Your Honor. We just learned a new crucial fact. What could explain the 2 very different locations of the body? I'll tell you what. The victim moved. An 11-year-old girl couldn't have moved the heavy body of an adult. So the only explanation is that the victim walked to the operating table herself. In other words, what Ponko observed near the workbench couldn't possibly have been the moment of the murder.
Ooh, I'm very relieved to hear that. Glad to know that the murder wasn't committed in front of little Ponko here.
Yes, as we just heard in his testimony, Miss Sykes hugged her mother, nothing more.
Objection!
Right. It's been 8 years, but you're still just as green as ever. Green?
But I can't really ever recall seeing Mr. Wright in anything but a blue suit.
Hey, blue's my favorite color. What can I say? If the defendant couldn't move the body herself, she could have had it move for her. Oh, he's gonna say Blackwell did it. Move for her? Miss Sykes and Dr. Sykes were the only ones there. I agree, since the robot is equipped with a heartbeat detection system. It would have been aware of another person's presence if someone else had been there. We can therefore conclude that the defendant and the victim were the only ones present.
Then who do you suggest move the body?
Don't you know it's in the nature of a robot to help people do things? Miss Ponko, allow me to ask you a question. My name is Ponko! Say it with me! Ponko! I believe you said you were cleaning after Dr. Sykes fell down. You happened to move something large onto the operating table? Yes, I did. Athena asked me to. Athena asked you to. And
What did you move, little Ponko?
I don't know. Unless something has an ID tag, I can't tell what it is.
An ID tag, you say?
Yeah, it's a tag with a barcode on it. We robots scan them to tell us what a thing is. A paper in the lab did mention something about that. Recognize people by scanning their spacesuit or uniform jacket ID tag. So would appear Miss Panko here can't identify what it moved. My name is Ponko! We humans have the power to imagine what it was, do we not?
Well, we do.
Well, I do at the very least. Miss Ponko, on the defendant's command, move the body onto the operating table. Ponko, did you really move Dr. Sykes' body? This is really important. Is there any way you could tell? I don't know. Without an ID tag, I can't tell. Give it up, right? If the victim's heart was stopped, the robot's detection system would be useless. Furthermore, Dr. Sykes usually wore her white coat while she was working. She kept the jacket with her ID tag on it, draped over a chair in the robotics lab, and only wore it for special occasions. In other words, the victim wasn't wearing her ID tag at the time. From the robot's point of view, her body was simply just another object.
Objection!
But Ponko is equipped with a facial recognition system. If she really did move the victim, she would have recognized the body as Dr. Sykes. But she didn't. So that means
Objection!
a face cam can easily be covered with a piece of cloth, a mask, or anything else for the matter. With her facial features hidden, the robot wouldn't be able to tell it was Dr. Sykes. He's right. To summarize, Miss Sykes stabbed her mother near the workbench. Then, using the robot, she moved the body to the table, where she removed the sword and was stained in blood.
Order! But if that's the case, then I have a question. Why did the defendant move the body to the operating table in the first place?
You want a reason? Very well. What? You can't possibly have an explanation. Your emotions blind you to the truth. You could learn a lot from our robot friends. Calm and rational thought will open your eyes to the truth in front of you, Mr. Wright. Now then, do you remember the operating table's one special feature? I believe I read that robots can be assembled and disassembled there. Isn't that right? That's right. And the defendant, who was just a child at the time, the table was like a magic box that could make robots appear or disappear in seconds. But in the end, my mom just put her on the operating table and fixed her in a flash. I was so impressed by what my mom did. I even asked her if she would put me on the table and fix me if I ever got hurt. It looked just like magic to me, what she could do. You can't possibly be suggesting. This young, sheltered girl had a difficult time distinguishing robots from people. But take a look at Ponko's arm. It was Miss Sykes who bandaged it up like that. She must have thought that machines heal in the same way people do. What an adorable, naive mistake. It reminds me of my own grandchild. No way. I refuse to believe it. That's ridiculous that she would want her mother fixed with the machine. Miss Sykes made a childish, naive, and cruel mistake. He thought that if a robot could be dismantled and vanish without a trace.
Prosecutor Edgeworth, if you're about to claim what I think you are, I demand that you word it as delicately as you can.
Is this why this case is rated M? Is this the reason? Because this is the only case in the game that's rated M. Because she was trying to get rid of the body by dismantling it? With all due respect, Your Honor, all I can do is present the truth as it stands. The reason the defendant moved the victim's body to the operating table...
Holding!
No! Don't say another word. Just stop. Was to dismantle the evidence so that she could get away with her crime. That can't be. True... Is that why this case is rated M?
Order! Order in the court! Order in the court, I say!
Edgeworth. She was just a little kid. How could you say such a horrible thing? Horrible? Like I said, you're just as green as ever. I came here today as prosecutor to seek only the truth, no more, no less. My theory is simply the result of a rational consideration of every possibility.
Objection!
But dismantling isn't the table's only function, it can make repairs as well. It's conceivable that Miss Sykes moved her mother to the table in order to fix her. I suppose that could be another way of interpreting it. But dismantle or repair, it doesn't matter either way. What do you mean? After murdering her mother, Miss Sykes may have come to her senses. Perhaps she did want to make it appear as if that had never happened. And that's why she tried to repair her mother. Yes, that's one possible explanation. Well, that's what I said earlier, but we mustn't forget the facts of this case. The victim was observed to fall down after being hugged by the defendant. And the body was moved per the defendant's command. These two facts that indicate the defendant's guilt, remain unchanged. This just can't be true.
Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence to refute the prosecution's claim?
Evidence? Right. Let's see. Can't think of any. I'm afraid I don't have any evidence. Since becoming chief prosecutor, I've learned that the truth isn't always pretty. Now accept the truth, Mr. Wright. Your subordinate murdered her own mother. Your Honor, the prosecution demands a verdict. The hostages have suffered enough.
What a terrible and tragic conclusion. If the defense has no counter-argument, I see no need to further prolong this trial.
Edgeworth's argument seems solid enough. But, there's no way Athena could have ever done anything like that. What do I do? There has to be something. But I can't think of a single thing. What?
Prosecutor Blackwell. This is quite the farce you are conducting here. I could die from laughter.
Prosecutor Blackwell, what are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that your argument is based entirely on a false premise.
Go on, we're listening. Could this be the miracle I need? He's gonna try to admit to it. What is Prosecutor Blackwell trying to pull here?
7 years. For 7 long years. This case has been on my mind. Not for an instant did I not think of it. I'm the one who killed my mentor, and don't think you can alter the fact now. Your boldness. I will take the stand, and I won't take no for an answer. Of course, Prosecutor Blackwell. Please go ahead.
I want to see this. 7 years ago.
I went to the Cosmos Space Center with the intention of killing Dr. Sykes. But when I got to the robotics lab, I found Athena there instead. I would not be swayed from my purpose, so I waited for Dr. Sykes to return. And then I committed the act. How cathartic it was.
That testimony is so vague.
Well, little Ponko here witnessed the victim falling. In other words...
Objection!
I don't need any of your other words, old man. I can guess what happened.
Which would be?
She fell means she fell, merely that. A mother and child fooling around. Perhaps she tripped. Not that it matters. When I entered the lab, there was no trace of Dr. Sykes to be seen. There was no dead body either, of course, meaning she must have left the room.
So the murder occurred after the time period Ponko described in her testimony.
You should hardly take stock in the words of a wind-up toy.
Objection!
Then how do you explain the fact that the defendant had the robot move something? Athena was always tinkering with robots on the operating table to amuse herself, and she always had Ponko move the heavy ones for her. That day was no different. Ponko moved the heavy robot for Athena. This is awful. What he's saying seems to make sense, and yet...
Objection!
Prosecutor Blackwell, are you trying even now to turn away from the truth? Don't you realize we could bring the Dark Age to law to a close today? You expect too much from me. I'm just a murderer beyond redemption. Why don't you let me go so I can settle down into hell? Prosecutor Blackwell's execution is tomorrow. If the truth doesn't come out now, it's all over.
Are you saying that the little girl and the robot had nothing to do with the murder?
That's right. So let's hear your verdict. If we don't hurry, I might miss the ferry across the Styx.
By whom?
Don't you dare, Judge! Don't forget I have hostages over here. And Simon, how long are you going to cover for her? Miss Blackwell.
Forgive me, Aura. I never wanted you to do anything like this for me.
But you agreed to this trial. If you have a counter-argument, then present your evidence. That's the rule of the courtroom. Isn't that right, Chief Prosecutor? Blackwell. You selfish...
Well, to be frank, I don't like this, but it's my duty to make a decision. If no one has a counter-argument, I will announce my verdict.
Is this really happening? Is it really going to end just like it did 7 years ago? No. It can't end this way. I wanted to do it so bad. Even now, I want to fly out of here and go save him. No, I can't tell her. How can I lie to Athena? I can't prove Prosecutor Blackwell's innocence in this trial. I don't think Athena will ever forgive me. I can't let this happen. But I just don't have the evidence to counter Prosecutor Blackwell's testimony. Oh, it's Athena? Athena, what are you... Are you feeling okay? I can hear it. I can hear the voice of his heart. He's hiding something. If he really is, I could sure use Athena's help right here. Her power might be just a thing to get us through this.
Objection!
Sykes Dono. No need for you to chime in here, just accept that you're innocent.
Objection!
These past 7 years, they've been just as hard on me, you know. What are you talking about? Do you remember that horrible, horrible trial? Please, you have to listen to me. He didn't kill her. His heart is screaming that he didn't kill her. Even now, every time I stand in a courtroom, it comes back to haunt me. Not being heard, no matter how hard you try. Feeling so helpless. Caught in people's stares, So scared that it feels like your chest is in a vise. I'm terrified of courtrooms. I want to run out of that door even now. And yet you found a way to keep your fears at bay and become a lawyer. Thanks. That's because one day, I came to realize that I had to fight. I couldn't give up. I exercised hard and I studied hard. I wanted to become the strongest lawyer I could be. This day has finally come. The day I've been looking forward to with all my heart. This is why I became a lawyer. This is why I studied psychology. It was all to save you from this false conviction.
Well, Miss Sykes, do you realize what it would mean? You are the accused after all. If you prove Prosecutor Blackwell innocent, then...
The only thing that matters is the truth. It's my duty to find out what the truth is. Simon, please give me this chance. The chance to shake off this fear that's been with me for 7 years and to face the truth. Athena's being so brave, confronting her past like this. This might really be the last chance to save them both. Prosecutor Blackwell, please testify one more time about the incident 7 years ago.
Fine. But your efforts will surely be in vain. For I am not a man who can be cut down easily.
Here we go, Simon. Let me hear the voice of your heart. So we're gonna be reading his emotions. I'm really curious what his emotions are. Okay, let me move my camera over so you guys can hear it. So remember, red means anger, green means happiness, yellow means surprised, and the blue means kind of sad and confused, I think, right? I went to the Cosmos Space Center with the intent of killing Dr. Sykes. When I got to the robotics lab, I found Athena there instead. But he's happy now. I would not be swayed from my purpose, so I waited for Dr. Sykes to return. And then I committed the act. Oh, how cathartic it was. Why is he happy when he saw Athena?
Got it!
This feeling of happiness. Even though the person you were looking for wasn't there, you felt happy. Why is that?
Simple. When I was looking for Athena and hadn't found her yet, I grew worried. So when I saw her in the robotics lab, I was happily relieved. Merely that.
Just now you said that you went to her space center to kill Dr. Sykes. But the first thing you did was look for her daughter instead.
I had no intention of harming Athena, so I wanted to confirm that she was safe first. It was just a part of my plan. Nothing contradictory about that.
Yeah. The second I find an inconsistency, he cuts it down. Simon knows the principles of analytical psychology. There's less noise now, but I don't see any instabilities we can latch onto. I was afraid of that. We'll just have to keep chipping away at him then, bit by bit. Could you update his testimony, Athena? You got it, boss. Okay, again. I went to the Cosmos Space Center with the intention of killing Dr. Sykes. When I found Athena in the robotics lab, I was relieved. But I would not be swayed from my purpose, so I waited for Dr. Sykes to return. And when she... Here, he's feeling sadness here. And when she did, I plunged a katana in. He's feeling sadness here.
Got it!
Not even you can falsify your emotions, Prosecutor Blackwell. What? When you said that you killed Dr. Sykes in your testimony, you felt sadness. Why would someone who had lain in wait to kill her be sad at her death?
Such an obvious attack. Yes, I felt sadness, but it wasn't for her. I felt sorrow for Athena and her circumstances.
He can't be talking about that. Can he? I was just a convenient subject for her research. Dr. Sykes was so intent on her research, she forced her daughter to undergo experiments.
My objective was to save Athena from an obsessive scientist who treated her own daughter like a research subject. What? I went to the psychology lab first. That's where I would usually find Athena playing. But that day was different. I heard someone crying in the robotics lab next door. Was Athena being subjected to yet another experiment? I fought as I went to see. Conveniently, Athena had cried herself to sleep, so all I had to do was wait and kill. So that's why he was relieved when he saw Athena. But is this story really true? I'm not sure how much to believe. Mr. Wright, how are you doing, Athena? Still hanging in there? I'm a lot stronger than I look, boss. Now take a look at this. The noise level actually increased. What? It went up. Never seen it do that before. Prosecutor Blackwell is lying somewhere in his testimony. As a matter of fact, he's piling lie on top of lie in an attempt to make his claims sound more believable. He's trying even harder to suppress his true feelings, and that's what's causing that noise. How in the world should I approach this? An evidence-based approach might work if I can find a contradiction. Otherwise, should look for an inconsistency in his emotions. I think evidence, because he's a master of psychology, so he's just gonna keep creating lie after lie. We need evidence. Something he can't refute. There are no flaws in my testimony, and his baldness is prepared to give his verdict. Give it up on this lost cause and let the law free me of these chains already.
Objection!
I don't think so. Not while I'm around. Now, contradictory testimony and inconsistent emotions. Which should I tackle first? His testimony. Okay, let's present some evidence here. Got it, boss. But if you want to go back to looking for inconsistent emotions, just let me know. I can easily switch back. I heard crying from next door. Of course, I was worried. I hurried over and opened the door to the robotics lab. But before I could lead Athena out of there, curse my luck, Dr. Sykes came in. I refused to hand Athena over, so I had no choice but to kill my mentor. I don't know if there is a contradiction. The testimony seems right. Let's try his emotions. Okay, maybe we better look for inconsistent emotions now. Coming right up. Heard crying from next door. Of course, I was worried. Went to the robotics, hurried over, went to the robotics lab. Is this it? He's surprised? How odd. Why would you register surprised opening the door to the lab? Alright, fine. I'll explain if I must. What surprised me was Ponko. That toy figure attacked me. Dr. Sykes knew full well of my plan to rescue Athena. But she couldn't stand guard over her daughter 24 hours a day. So Dr. Sykes had Ponko do it. That's right. She ordered Ponko to forcibly remove me on sight. So I slashed Ponko up with the katana that was there in the lab. That rickety old puppet wasn't worthy of that fine blade. Mr. Wright, it's happening again. There's even more noise now. My god, it's 100% now. What's going on here?
Whenever we find an opening, he covers it up with lies. We'll never get rid of the noise at this rate. It's pretty hard to keep telling coherent lies like that. His mind and will are really as sharp as strong as a katana. Alright, what should I tackle first this time? Let me look at his testimony. I think there might be an inconsistency in Prosecutor Blackwell's testimony. Alright, let's give it a thorough check then. Honko didn't testify that he attacked Blackwell. With feeling of dread, I opened the robotics lab. Just then, Honko attacked me. I retaliated by cutting it into pieces. How would it identify Blackwell unless it was programmed specifically to identify him? I think this.
Objection!
Yeah. It's not this one. Let me look at his emotions. Feeling of dread. I opened the robotics lab door. Just then, Honko attacked me. I retaliated by cutting it into pieces. Yeah, I would say Prosecutor Blackwell is definitely one of the hardest people in the game to cross-examine. He's one of the hardest people in the game to analyze. But before I could lead Athena out of there, curse my luck, Dr. Sykes came in. He's still surprised even after he mentions Ponko. No. Not this. Okay. No, okay, no, it's not this. Honko attacked me. I retaliated by cutting it into pieces. But... Wait, this is the inconsistency here. This is it, I think. I think I got it. I think it is this. Hold on, let me just... This is the inconsistency. Let me explain. The katana has blood on it. You see that? There's blood. And but look at what it says. The photo shows Blackwell taking the robot apart. There's a blood stain on the end of the robot's arm. And then look at what he says later on. But before I could lead Athena out of there, curse my luck, Dr. Sykes came in. And look at the thing. He has no blood on the sword. That's when he killed her, but he was he cut the robot apart. This.
Objection!
Am I right? I'm right. Compounding lies with more lies is never the answer, Prosecutor Blackwell. Take a look at this photo.
That's the photo of the supposed moment of the murder, isn't it?
How many more times must I see this, that which damned me for my sin? The ironic thing is, I think this picture is actually going to be your savior now. See the bloodstain at the end of Ponko's arm, where it was severed, with the katana.
I hope you aren't claiming it's the robot's blood, Mr. Wright.
No, most likely the blood was transferred from the bloody katana.
The katana already had blood on it, so it must have been the victim's blood.
That's right. But if that's the case, we only found a glaring inconsistency. He knows what I'm about to say. Yep, he knows. You said in your testimony that you cut up Ponko and then you killed Dr. Sykes. But in spite of that, the victim's blood is already on Ponko's arm in this picture. Yep, I got it. Literally, I'm so happy I got it. I figured it out.
What? But that couldn't be.
Exactly. In order for the blood to have transferred from the sword to Ponko's arm, the victim must have been stabbed first before the robot was slashed. In other words, Prosecutor Blackwell, your entire testimony is nothing but one giant ball of lies. Tell the court the truth, Prosecutor Blackwell, now. You have no idea what you're doing. His voice. There's so much discord. I'm hearing not just one or two, but a bunch of rampaging emotions here. It's hard to describe. It's like a violent whirlpool or something. Phoenix Wright, you will pay for this. Never have I been forced to reveal so much, but the rest I'll take to my grave. Prosecutor Blackwell, you are on the witness stand. You are obligated to tell the truth. Isn't that the rule of the courtroom? All these complex emotions, they seem to be flowing from one source. Think whatever he really saw that day is what's causing these feelings. What the hell? Look at the emotions, everything's out of control. I've never seen it like this. Following the sound of crying, I opened the lab door and then... I saw that terrible scene. Before I could lead Athena out of there, curse my luck. I had no choice but to kill my mentor. What's causing strong emotions? It's either gotta be Ponko or Athena. I think Ponko killed the mom. I think Ponko killed her. Ponko killed Metis. The root cause of all these emotions is this. Then it's gotta be Athena. Let me just see. What could be causing all of the bad emotions? not dead. Athena?
Got it!
Yeah, it's gotta be Athena. When you opened the door and saw Athena, you became overwhelmed by your emotions. Isn't that right, prosecutor? You should know better. And know it's pathetic. I admit I'm terrified to speak of it. Is he crying? Prosecutor Black, Miss Sykes is innocent. I will always believe that with all my heart. Now, can't you find it within yourself to believe in me too? He's crying. Athena is innocent, huh? Can you honestly say you believe that to be true? Right, Dono? I give you my word. Now tell me what you really saw when you opened that door. Curse you, Phoenix Wright. What did he really see? It was a tragedy. One I'll never forget. When I arrived at the lab, Dr. Sykes was already dead. She was lying on the operating table, while the bloody katana lay on the floor. And standing between the two, covered in blood, was Athena. She smiled with a far-off look in her eyes, as she sweetly said, "Something's wrong with Mom, so I'm taking her apart to fix her." Is that why the case is rated M? That's what I saw, and now you have it. The truth is that you so desperately wanted. No. Prosecutor Blackwell finally tells the truth, and this is what it is. It's beyond devastating. I tried to take my mother apart. I No! There's gotta be more to this story. So it was me. I'm the one who killed her, my mother? But we still got a killer on the loose. Athena. As I said, right, the truth isn't always pretty. Murder disassembly on an operating table, a scientist using her daughter as a guinea pig. Sadly, it appears that my theory was correct after all. Now, here's what I will say about this. Is, I don't know if it's actually true that Athena's mother was experimenting on her, but if there was a situation where somebody was being abused, like especially a child, if a child was being abused and traumatized, and the child ended up killing the parent because the child felt that they had really no other option, the child could still be found guilty because it technically is a murder, but the courts would go very lenient on her if that was the case. I highly doubt that if a jury found out that, like, some mother was, like, really abusing her daughter, like, really badly, and the daughter ended up killing the mother, like, a small child, because the daughter couldn't take the abuse anymore, I don't think any jury would want to convict a child for that. I honestly don't think they would.
Objection!
It's true that Athena didn't like her mother's research, but you dare cast aspirations on my mentor by claiming Athena was used in such a manner? Dr. Sykes could be awkward with people, but she loved her daughter with all her heart. She loved me. Your mother hated to see you suffer because you could hear the voices of people's hearts. She wanted to set you free of your pain, so she worked tirelessly on her research. Do you remember those headphones you hated her so much? Yes, my head hurt every time I wore them. No, Athena, it's just that the opposite. They emitted sound waves to nullify emotional input from the voices of people around you. Your power was much stronger than it is now. And those headphones were enabled you to carry on with everyday life. No, that can't be true. Then why would I have done something like that to somebody who loved me so much? Her love for you was real, that I can guarantee. That's why I knew that what happened had to be some kind of mistake. I couldn't let you be punished for it. So you took the blame yourself. You and your mentor are more alike than you know. Ponko was a witness, so I put it in the case, held Athena close, and vacated the lab. I threw Ponko away in the boarding lounge trash chute. And I hid the case on the Space Center grounds.
It would seem that we now have all the facts of this case.
Hold it!
No, we don't. No, not yet. It can't end like this. Do not disgrace yourself, Mr. Wright. The truth has been revealed. Or are you the type of man to turn your back to things that disagree with you? I'm not. But this... I can't give up now. I have to say something, anything, even if it's a bluff. I've always managed to pull through that way in the past. I have to make it work. The defense is prepared to present evidence. Minister Wright. Yes, Athena. It's... okay. You can stop now. I don't want you or anyone else to suffer any longer for my sake. Athena, what are you saying? I killed my mother. That's the truth. It's just like Prosecutor Edgeworth said. We have to face it, no matter how much it hurts. I admit my guilt. But could I please be granted just one chance to tell everyone what I recall? It appears Miss Sykes is much braver than you, Mr. Wright. What say you, Your Honor? In light of her courage, will the court give Miss Sykes the opportunity to confess?
Very well. Then if you would, please take the stand, Miss Sykes.
Thank you for letting me do this, Prosecutor Edgeworth. And thank you, Mr. Wright and Prosecutor Blackwell, for letting the truth be known. Now we can finally move forward, and everyone suffering can come to an end. Athena. Prosecutor Blackwell will be cleared, and the Dark Age of the law can come to an end. But what about the killer at the Space Center? There's still somebody killed Tehran, and I highly doubt that that was Athena, so the killer is still on the loose. There's somebody bombed the rocket. That definitely wasn't Athena who did that. Yes, admit your guilt and bring everything to its conclusion. I killed my mother. My memory is still a little hazy, but there's no question I remember it. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands, and the feeling of it stabbing in deep. And I remember the warmth of her blood as it flowed down the handle onto my fingers. Your Honor, please find me guilty. I dare say these are all memories that no one but the murderer would have.
I see. Thank you for your confession. I believe this trial has gone on long enough. But before we conclude, does anyone have a counter-argument?
Objection!
I do, Your Honor.
Mr. Wright.
But Mr. Wright, why? I killed her. I remember it now. Any counter-argument now is pointless.
Objection!
Don't tell me you've forgotten one of the basic tenets of lawyering. Always believe in the client to the bitter end. Athena, you are not a murderer.
Objection!
I said that you never changed, but could you have actually regressed in these 8 years? I won't stand for your childish emotionalism getting in the way of the truth. Emotionalism? Don't lecture me in matters of the heart, Edgeworth. because I can see straight into a person's soul. Yeah, those black cyclops. I did a little research. I looked into those special cyclops you mentioned, Mr. Nick. Athena isn't trying to keep anything from you on purpose. For some reason, part of her heart and memories are sealed off even from herself. There's still a chance, somewhere deep in Athena's heart, there might still be memory that not even she knows about yet. It might be like looking for a grain of sand somewhere in the cosmos, but still. The memory might contain a new fact that could prove her innocence.
I hope for everyone's sake that you are not just bluffing, Mr. Wright. Now then, is there not a problem with Miss Sykes' confession?
My memory is still a little hazy, but there's no question I remember it. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands, and the feeling of it stabbing in deep. And I remember the warmth of her blood as it flowed down the handle onto my fingers. There's definitely something wrong with her memory of the event. I can just tell. Is there a problem with her confession? Please prove it to this court now. There's something wrong with the confession. My memory is still a little hazy, but there's no question I remember it. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands and the feeling of it stabbing in deep. And I remember the warmth of her blood as it flowed down the handle onto my fingers. Okay, there's something wrong with her testimony here. It's these three statements. Something's wrong with one of them. My memory is a little hazy. There's no question I remember it. Okay, I don't think it's that. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands and the feeling of it stabbing in deep. And I remember the warmth of her blood as it flowed down the handle onto my fingers. If she stabbed her mother in this area near the window, shouldn't there be blood here? She said that it fell onto her fingers. Shouldn't there be blood here? This is apparently the murder scene right here near this window. Apparently. And then she had Honko pick her up and carry her across. But shouldn't there be blood in the near the window?
Take that!
And what contradiction does that piece of evidence prove?
Well, somebody's hit the flip or a tilde thing to get a new way of looking at it, Your Honor. I know I'm right. It's the... handle onto my fingers. I doubt an 11-year-old... I mean, I guess an 11-year-old could kill somebody with a katana, but... Prosecutor Blackwell, when he moved her, wouldn't there be blood in the hallway? That's the thing. Only the victim's blood was found on the blade. That's it. That's what I was looking for. Okay, it's this one. This is it. If she thrusted the weapon... Okay, hang on a second. Wait.
Take that!
Isn't that the katana the defendant used to kill the victim, Mr. Wright?
I respectfully vehemently disagree, Your Honor. But I remember it. I remember holding the weapon and getting the blood on my fingers. That's exactly my point. If blood really did get on your fingers while you were holding it, there should be blood on the handle. Yeah. There should be. Yeah, that's exact. Yeah. There should be blood on the handle. There isn't. But please focus on the handle of the sword. There's not a trace of blood on it. And therefore, this is clearly a contradiction of the facts. You're right.
Oh my!
Objection!
The defendant must have simply confused a portion of her memories. She mentioned it was hazy to begin with. We can't mull over every minor detail.
Objection!
But she also said there's no question I remember it. A fact we can't ignore. In that case, why don't you explain what this contradiction with her memories means? Gladly. Just give me a second to think of something. I want to say that Athena didn't stab anyone. But she said it herself that she remembers the feeling of committing the act. Think, Phoenix. Think. What could the contradiction of Athena's memories mean? The blood was wiped off the weapon. The defendant used a different weapon. A different weapon. Miss Sykes said blood flowed down the handle, but the katana's handle is spotless. So doesn't it follow that the defendant must have used a weapon other than the katana? What are you up to this time? This is it. This time I found just the thing to end Athena's nightmare for good. The weapon that took Dr. Sykes' life was the katana. That much is for sure. So if I can show a possibility Athena didn't use the katana, it could help me prove her innocence.
A different weapon, you say? What weapon would that be exactly?
Right. Of course he would ask that. I can see you're floundering, Mr. Wright. Did you speak without thinking again, as always? How does he do that? But I can't back down. Not here, not now. That's right. I did. Because it's so obvious it doesn't require any thought. What did you say? Okay, so maybe that was an exaggeration, but there has to be something. Was there some other bladed weapon in the robotics lab that day? Maybe there's something in one of the crime scene photos. Wait a minute. There is something. There's a high probability that this was in the lab. I don't have that particular weapon here in the evidence right now, but I do have a piece of evidence just like it. Other than the katana, this is another blade that may have been at the crime scene. From a set of utility tools used by Space Center techs. Utility knife. The same kind of knife again?
Take that!
But that's the murder weapon in the Clay Tehran case.
Yes, this is the knife that took Mr. Tehran's life. But there must have been a knife just like this scene 7 years ago as well. Toolkits containing utility knives like this ones are issued to Space Center employees. And a robotics lab especially would naturally have one of these around.
Objection!
But besides the katana, no other bladed weapon was found at the scene. It was in the investigation report, if you didn't know.
Objection!
Oh, of course I knew that, once you told me just now. Then here's something else you already knew. There was a toolkit at the scene, but it didn't contain any blades. Here's a photo of its contents. The blade is missing. You're right.
You're right, I don't see any kind of bladed tool.
Fine. But isn't there something odd about the design of the handles? Therefore, there was no other bladed weapon in the room.
Objection!
I disagree. This toolkit contained a knife. And what proof do you have of that? Don't tell me your eye for art is failing you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You are the last person in the world who should be criticizing my aesthetic sense.
No. He is simply watching out for your ocular health. Please proceed, Mr. Wright.
Notice that the handles of each of these tools have a sort of design on them.
Ah, I see that they do, but what significance does that have?
It's clear that one of the tools is missing from this kit. If we arrange the tools into a specific pattern, we might be able to tell which part of the overall design is missing. Is that the theory your pitiful sense of aesthetics has helped you come up with? Edgeworth, just let it go, man. Show the court then, if you would. What pattern design would we see if we were to rearrange the tools? What pattern or design will we see if the tools are rearranged? I can only see what the box looks like. It cut me off from the box now. Jiaxa. It looks like that, the Jiaxa.
Take that!
And what design is this supposed to represent?
The Jiaxa logo, Your Honor. It's all on the set of the Space Center's documents and pamphlets. As you're aware, Jiaxa is a program that operates the Cosmos Space Center. Look at how brightly the Jiaxa logo shines the sunlight above the entranceway. I really dig the stars and rocket motive. It's got going. Jiaxa, huh? Isn't that the new name of the Federal Space R&D program?
Huh, I think I see it now, but...
Yeah, it's Jiaxa. Yes, just with the set of the tools in the photo. The red A part of the logo is missing. And this is where the murder weapon from the Terran case comes into play. If we were to place this utility knife in the open slot... There we go. Wow. It would complete the Jiaxa logo.
So it would. Then that means...
Admit it, Mr. Edgeworth. My aesthetic sense is keener than yours. And while you're at it... Admit that the weapon Miss Sykes used could have been this one.
Order! Order in the court!
Miss Sykes confessed to having memory of stabbing the victim. Admittedly, Miss Sykes most likely did stab someone, using the utility knife. However, the weapon used to kill Dr. Sykes was the katana. Therefore, the act of stabbing that Miss Sykes remembers couldn't be that of Dr. Sykes. So she stabbed the killer? Very well. Let's suppose for a minute that Miss Sykes did use the utility knife. Tell me, how does that change anything? Come again? What if the katana was only being used as a decoy to conceal the true murder weapon? What if the real weapon that took the victim's life was a utility knife? Don't be ridiculous, or are you changing the premise of your entire argument? I'm merely offering a hypothetical situation derived from your logic. Miss Sykes could have put blood on the katana to make it look like the murder weapon, and then concealed the knife on her personage until Blackwell carried it away.
It does clear up the contradiction between Miss Sykes' memories and the evidence.
If in fact the murder weapon is a utility knife, then fate has dealt you a cruel hand. For you have just proven the knife's existence to the rest of us with your own logic.
Objection!
The prosecution is attempting to lead the court.
Objection!
You're the one attempting to lead the court, Mr. Wright, by forcing us to forget the facts of this case. Need to remind you that there were only 2 people in the lab at the time of the murder, and that the defendant herself recalls stabbing someone with her own hands.
No.
It matters not whether the murder weapon was a katana or a utility knife. As long as we know that the victim and the defendant were the only ones there. Well, if you don't have the murder weapon, that actually is a huge part of the case. You cannot escape the fact that it was Athena Sykes who killed her own mother. I don't believe it. Why? Why does this keep happening? Every time I find a contradiction, it vanishes and the suspicion keeps coming back. It's almost as if... Now you're finally starting to get it. Your contradictions keep vanishing because the charge is true. And the suspicion keeps coming back to the defendant because that's where it belongs. Phoenix Wright, when will you open your eyes and accept the truth? Ah! She stabbed the killer. That's who she stabbed. She stabbed the killer. I don't want to believe it. It can't be true. But what if...
Mr. Wright, you fought a good fight. I think you've done all you can do.
She stabbed the killer. Is giving up really, the only option? No. Snap out of it, Phoenix. What's the matter with you? Giving in to doubt. I can't look back. Forward is the only way to go. No, Your Honor, not yet. It isn't over yet. Right. I can't lose sight of what's important. I believe in Athena, and I'll always believe in her. To the very end, as a defense lawyer, never gives up on his client. I have to pick myself up and stand firm. Make the brain of yours work, Phoenix. I don't see a way. I'll just have to go back and look for one. Time to rethink this case. Thoroughly. I can see the fact that Athena must have stabbed someone with a utility knife. It was the killer. This must have been, what Ponko witnessed as Athena's hug. Prosecutor Blackwell didn't see the knife at the scene. This means that someone must have removed it from the lab before he arrived. Who could have taken the utility knife, from the lab? Someone else. Could be Metis. The third person was at the scene. If I trust Athena Knight to conclude there was a third person at the scene. This is where we get the answer, but according to Ponko's testimony, Athena and her mother were the only 2 there. So then how did this third person manage to escape Ponko's detection? I know. This person must have fooled Ponko's facial recognition feature by covering... How did this person escape Ponko's detection? Their own face. Hang on, let me see here. Their own face. Ponko had a heartbeat detection. Yeah. Ponko had a heartbeat detection system too. Even if they covered their own face, Ponko would have still detected their presence. But she wouldn't have been able to tell who they were. Wait, that's it. The culprit could have covered their face and posed as which person to avoid detection. Metis. The person posed as the victim. I'm on the right track. I've gotten everything right so far. A third person was at the scene. The person posed as the victim. The person hid their face. That would explain why Ponko thought, only, she and Athena were there. All they had to do was take advantage of Ponko's basic recognition systems. The culprit used that in order to pose as the victim. If the culprit posed as the victim, that would explain why Ponko thought only she and Athena were there. All they had to do was take advantage of Ponko's basic the culprit used this in order to pose the victim. Her jacket. The jacket has a slash through it. You see that right there? There's a slash through it. It's a stab wound. But if we read the autopsy report, stab wound to the heart. I'm on the right track. Athena stabbed the killer. You see that? That's not where your heart is. Your heart's over here. So, yeah. Heart's on the, heart's on my right here. I'm pretty sure it's on the right side here. So it's on the, heart is on the upper body. So, right down here, this is not the heart. So this is, this was the killer was wearing this jacket. And the, and Athena stabbed the killer. The jacket, it's gotta be that. The victim's jacket. The culprit could have posed the victim by wearing the jacket with the ID tag on it. That still leaves the heartbeat detection system. How could the culprit have gotten around that? It wouldn't have worked if Ponko could detect the real Sykes' heartbeat too. Does that mean the real Dr. Sykes was already dead by the time? If that's the case, then who did Athena stab? The real culprit. Athena stabbed the real culprit. I got it. I got everything right at my first try there. That's it. The person Athena stabbed wasn't Dr. Sykes. I had it all right. I called it even before the whole theory came up that Athena stabbed the killer. It was the person who murdered her and then pretended to be her. The real culprit. Now that Mr. Wright is finally finished thinking, let's bring this to a swift end. Please give us your verdict, Your Honor, so that we can move on to hostage negotiations.
You are absolutely right, Prosecutor Edgeworth. I hereby...
Objection!
I didn't say I was finished. I was only pausing for a second, because I realized something so shocking I had to take a break to digest it. But now I know for a fact that Miss Sykes is innocent. But Ponko saw me. She witnessed the moment of the crime. Yes, Ponko did witness something. She saw the hug. In other words, the moment you used the utility knife. But the person you stabbed wasn't your mother.
What are you saying, Mr. Wright?
The answer is simple. The person Miss Sykes stabbed was a third person posing as Dr. Sykes.
What?
We got it. Yep. It's this.
Objection!
Do you really expect us to swallow that, Mr. Wright? According to robot statements, there was no third person there, because the robot was tricked. Did you really think I wouldn't see through your ludicrous grab for time?
Objection!
After all, we've been through, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm disappointed. Don't you know by now, this smile of mine means I have absolute confidence? Ha! You make that pose all the time regardless of the facts. Ponko's strange malfunction. Mr. Tehran, you look pale. Shall I help you to the sick bay? Mr. Tehran? That's Apollo you're talking to. Oh, this hunk of junk? Here's mistaking Apollo for Clay. Maybe Apollo is possessed by Clay's ghost. That was another case of mistaken identity caused by a jacket ID tag. All because Klonko couldn't read Apollo's facial features due to the eye patch. Like Mr. Edgeworth said, a mask could nullify the robot's facial recognition system. And then, all the person will have to do is wear a jacket with the victim's ID tag to pose as her.
Objection!
Of all the ridiculous theories, what good would a silly disguise like that do? Have you forgotten that the robot also has a heartbeat detection system? If there was a third person at the scene, the robot would have detected them. But detected it as Athena's mother. I'm sorry, Mr. Edgeworth, but that doesn't count for much, I'm afraid. Because, by that time, Dr. Sykes' heart had already stopped beating. What?
So does that mean
Yes, Your Honor. The person Miss Sykes stabbed. This third person who was posing as Dr. Sykes is her mother's real killer. But that's... I'm impossible! A mask? The person I stabbed was wearing a mask?
Order! Order in the court! Miss Sykes, did you say something?
A mask. Yes. I remember, Athena. What is this? I remember a man with a mask. How could he... What he did to my mother. My head.
Miss Sykes, are you alright?
No! The Black Cyclops. They're breaking. It's all coming back to me. Everything that happened the day my mother was murdered. They're gone. The Black Cyclops are finally gone. You didn't really stab your mother, did you? It's alright, Athena. Just tell us what you saw that day. I was drawing a picture. When I was done, I went to show it to my mom. I opened the door, and then... It's alright. I'm right here. You're safe, Athena. She was on the floor by the workbench with the katana sticking out of her. There was a handkerchief over her face. But I knew it was her by her clothes. The handkerchief. That's the handkerchief. Look at right underneath her. Right there. That's that. And there was a man there.
A man?
Quiet, Your Honor. Go on, Athena. He tried to attack me. In a panic, I grabbed the knife that was there, and... He dodged at first, so I only got his clothes. But I tried again. And this time you got him, didn't you? I did. I remember it clearly now. The knife went into the back of his hand. Then he kicked me, and I passed out. The murder weapon used on Tehran. Athena also used one of these to stab the Phantom's hand during the incident 7 years ago. When I came to my mom, wasn't moving. I had to do something. I had to fix her, I thought. So I asked Ponko to move her to the operating table. Something's wrong with Mom. So I'm taking her apart to fix her. A child isn't gonna fully be able to process all of this. So her reaction is understandable. So that's why she said that. Your Honor, as you can see, the defendant has just given us critical new testimony. A man was there before Miss Sykes arrived. A man who covered the victim's face. And put on the victim's jacket. The man is the real culprit.
Miss Sykes, do you have any idea who this man was?
No, I'm afraid I don't. A few moments ago, Miss Sykes mentioned a mask. Athena, can you tell us anything about that? Yes, the mask. It was my mom's Japanese theater mask. I think it was the one hanging on the wall of the lab. That one. Yeah, it's that mask.
Ha! This mask hanging here on the wall.
It was kind of spooky, that mask. My mom used to tell me that a no mask even has the power to turn an ordinary human being into a phantom. A phantom?
It would seem that a new suspect has emerged. And that means that all suspicion against Miss Sykes has...
You see, this is precisely why I can't trust the court system. Athena Sykes is the murderer. I won't accept any other verdict. Miss Blackwell, this is not good. A new suspect? Where's the proof this person ever existed? Who says it wasn't just all a dream in the little princess's groggy little head? He's right. We don't have any hard evidence of the masked man's existence.
Objection!
Thank you, Mr. Wright. I'll never be able to repay you for all you've done. But I'm fine now, because I can say with certainty that I didn't kill my mother. Athena, I'm so glad for you. More and more memories are coming back now. So I'd like to say one thing if I could. Ponko came to the robotics lab about 2 p.m. to recharge. I went to the robotics lab at about 2 p.m. for my regular recharge. Just as I was about to charge up, Athena came in and hugged Mommy Metis. And then Mommy Metis fell down. After that, I was recharging, so I don't know anything. I see where you're going with this. Mommy Metis was really the killer in disguise. Right. Then he must have come to the robotics lab before 2 p.m. Have anything here in the evidence that can help me find this person who came to the lab before 2 p.m.? Okay, it's the moment of truth, trying to figure out who this guy was. Evidence that can help me prove who the person was who came to the lab before 2 p.m. The video? The video? If there's a camera in the corridor, it should...
Take that!
This is Prosecutor Blackwell, leaving the scene after the incident around 3 p.m. What I'm wondering is, does this video show anyone else passing by before then? I don't see anything in the investigation report. It looks like they didn't check. Oh my god, we're a bunch of stupid cops. That's, it's like you should check everyone who's been there hours beforehand. Just as I thought. So if we rewind the footage and go back to around 2 p.m., we should be able to see the true culprit leaving the scene.
Very well then, let's take a look.
There, please stop it right there.
It's just like you said, there's a man leaving the scene of the crime.
And the jacket's cut, look. The arm, the hand is slashed too. Miss Sykes, you remember this person? That's him, I'm sure of it. He's wearing my mother's jacket. I did, but what I really wanted to see was her jacket. That jacket on display. That was Dr. Sykes. Can you see it? There's the slash I made with the utility knife that day. It definitely looks like a guy. And I'm sure that the knife is under that jacket somewhere.
So then, everything Miss Sykes said.
Exactly. It proves that Miss Sykes' memory was correct. Dr. Sykes' killer arrived at the robotics lab before 2 p.m. He killed her and hit her face with a handkerchief. Then, he disguised himself with Dr. Sykes' jacket and the mask that were there in the lab. The culprit probably knew beforehand that Ponko charged up at 2 p.m. every day. So he waited for Ponko to come to the lab for a regular recharge. By leaving Dr. Sykes' jacket on, the culprit tricked Ponko into thinking he was Dr. Sykes, thereby making it look like she was alive up to the point in time. All this to disguise the real time of death.
Objection!
It's a nice theory, Mr. Wright, but I'm afraid it's just not possible. What? What? Why not? The victim's jacket is clearly visible right there in this video. And that right there is precisely the problem. The ID tag on the jacket of the scene confirms beyond doubt that it belongs to the victim. If the person who left the lab truly was wearing the victim's jacket, then how could it have possibly wound up back at the crime scene? That is a good point. How could it have gotten back at the crime scene? What's going on? That doesn't make sense. Edward's right. If the culprit was wearing the jacket, how did it get back to the crime scene? I gotta think about this one. The killer wouldn't bring it back because the killer would get caught on camera again. The victim couldn't have brought it back because the victim was dead. The defendant brought it back. It's only that or the killer brought it back. It can't be the victim's dead. Miss Sykes brought the jacket back to the lab. I see. So you're saying Miss Sykes is an accomplice then?
Objection!
I'll believe in Miss Sykes' complete innocence. To the bitter end.
With the way things are going, it might very well be a bitter end for the both of you.
Your Honor, please give me another chance. The killer then. But the thing is, if the killer brought it back, they'd get caught on camera. The killer brought it back. Okay. The killer used the jacket as disguise to make his escape. But in order to conceal that fact, he had to get the jacket back to the crime scene. Yeah, but he'd get caught on camera, that's my problem. So the culprit simply returned to the robotics lab later and planted it there. Contradiction resolved.
Objection!
Except that it would have been impossible. The only people who came to the robotics lab after the killer were Prosecutor Blackwell and the people who reported the body. And they claimed that the jacket was there when they arrived. So, when do you propose the mysterious man of yours had the chance to return the jacket? He had to have somehow gotten it in the room without being caught on camera.
A puzzling question indeed.
When did the culprit have the chance to bring the jacket back? When the body was found, he probably blended it in with the crowd. That's probably what he did. He probably pretended to be with the crowd and probably snuck it in there. The only time the culprit could have returned the jacket was when the body was found. Mr. Wright, do you realize the implication of that argument? I do. Most people, when they come across a murder, focus their attention on the body. The culprit could have taken advantage of the split second to plant the jacket. Yep, that is true. I didn't think of that. That's a really good point. So yeah, so I was mistaken. I was going a little crazy with saying the defendant brought it back. I thought that like Athena found the jacket somewhere and then she wanted to bring it back in like a panic after the killer tossed it somewhere. But now this makes sense. Is you know that saying that says the criminal always returns to the scene of the crime? It is true to an extent. Criminals sometimes do return to the scene of the crime to see what the police are doing. And so that's possible. It's also true is that if people are looking at a body, everyone's gonna be focused on the body. They're not gonna be focused on anything else in the room. And so the killer could sneak in the jacket at the same time too. In other words, the true culprit of this case, the man known as the Phantom, we have to go back and rewind the tape and see everybody that's coming back into the room and see who's wearing the jacket. That's what we have to do. Was one of the first people to discover the body.
I would never have thought of that. Order in the court. Well, what is the meaning of this, Prosecutor Edgeworth?
The body was discovered and reported by a group of 3 people. They were there to collect the space probe's capsule in preparation for the Hat 1 launch. So yeah, so one of those 3 people is the killer. Who's the 3 people? give names right now. One of the people had a special bag to transport the capsule in. Oh? You mean the shock-resistant bag? Correct. I suppose that if the jacket was in the bag, it could have been returned to the scene of the crime without anyone noticing. I'll see to it that you get the reports on the 3 people. You will. We should also check the facial recognition database for that robot. If this person felt the need to hide his face with the theater mask, it might mean that his facial data was once registered. Yup, that's true.
Prosecutor Edgeworth, does this mean...
I have to admit, I believe Miss Sykes' memories to be credible. You win, right? Not that this was ever an official trial anyway.
Do my ears deceive me? Prosecutor Edgeworth, are you actually conceding?
Is it true, boss? Does this mean... Can't believe it. It's over. I won. Prove that both Athena and Prosecutor Blackwell are innocent. Your Honor, I see no need to further prolong this trial. Hold on, Mr. Wright. Have you forgotten who's in charge of this trial?
That's right. I'm the one who's supposed to say, I see no need to further prolong.
No, Aura is. Not you either, Your Honor. Now silence. The little princess who was truly beloved by Menace and who repaid that love with death. All these years hating Athena was the only thing that kept me going. But what do I do now? Can anybody tell me? How am I supposed to, go on? Miss Blackwell.
How unlike you, Aura. Menace was deeply passionate about her work, and she chose you as her partner, isn't that?
Shut up, Simon. You know exactly how I felt about her. Her respect as a coworker wasn't all that I wanted.
Then what did you want from her?
Did you really just go there, Your Honor?
Aura, there is something I've wanted to say if you will lend me an ear. I have in my possession a lead on who Menace's murderer is. You do? Right, Dono. You asked me about the identity of the Phantom of 7 years past.
That's right. The Phantom. The person Blackwell's been looking for. Even from behind bars.
7 years ago, somebody hatched a plan to sabotage the Hat 1 rocket. The spy. But he was no ordinary spy. We knew not about him, his background appearance. We came to refer to him as the Phantom. At the time, I was working with the police to hunt him down. And then one day, a miracle occurred, and I obtained a lead on him. Oh, how exciting! What was the lead?
A recording of the Phantom's voice, but the quality was too poor for a proper voice analysis.
Yet I had hope. Aura's co-worker was a scientist who could analyze human emotions. So I asked her to evaluate the recording using analytical psychology.
And that scientist was Dr. Sykes, and she was murdered.
Yes, a spy's greatest fear is to have his true identity discovered.
In addition to Hat 1, Dr. Sykes' results in the recording were surely among his targets. But his search in the Space Center bore no fruit, so he must have started to panic.
He couldn't find them. But where could they have been?
Who is to say? Wow, I bet he's never let that out of his sight all these years. How in the world did you smuggle them into prison?
Oh, I have my ways. What's more, my partner's especially talented at that sort of thing. I worked to lure the Phantom in by spreading rumors throughout the underworld. I was even granted permission to prosecute cases to attract the Phantom's attention. Just try to retrieve your identity, you bloody butcher, became my taunt.
And what about the results Dr. Sykes drew up for you? Was there any useful information?
Here, you can see for yourself. But take good care of it. It's all I have left of my mentor.
I will. Better hold on to this real tight. Phantom Psych profile. The subject's emotions rarely fluctuate, and he doesn't experience feelings like normal people do. You know what that means? I can already tell you what that means. The Phantom is the most dangerous kind of killer out there. You know why? They're a psychopath. That's exactly what they are. They're a psychopath. A psychopath's emotions are actually completely different from most other people. A psychopath feels no empathy. Nothing. So they don't feel love for anyone, not even their parents. That's how psychopaths are. And so a psychopath can pass a lie detector test. That's because they're so cold-blooded. Like, even the most brutal killers still have some kind of emotion, something to it. Like they will panic, worry about something, they might feel a tiny bit guilty, and that's what gets them on the lie detector test. But a psychopath isn't going to feel guilty about anything, they're not going to care, and so they're not going to pass through that. So this person is a really, really bad person. That's just what I'll say about this, is this person feels no empathy, they have no conscience, this is a very dangerous person, and the thing about this is, psychopaths could really be anybody. That's the scary thing is, psychopaths are much worse than sociopaths. The reason for that is because sociopaths are a lot easier to tell. They're very easy to tell a lot of times. They're not very hidden about who they are. But psychopaths, on the other hand, a psychopath could pretend to be the most lovely, kind person ever, but deep inside, they're a very evil, twisted person. So that's what I'll say about psychopaths, is this person is definitely a psychopath. Just the fact, this psych profile that you see right here. Psychology profile classified. Let me see, can I even read this? The subject emotions rarely fluctuate, and he doesn't experience feelings like normal people do. That's the only thing we got. Emotional output is voiced extremely weak compared to typical voices. Subject deemed to have unique psychological makeup with almost no emotional fluctuation. They're able to keep their emotions hidden very well. No emotional fluctuation, huh? A spy who experiences no emotions. Not sadness, nor anger, and naturally, no fear. He is the very definition of a phantom, a monster with no heart. Don't you see? Yes, psychopaths have no empathy. So a spy would be a perfect role for a psychopath. It actually would be. This creature is the rot that destroyed our lives and set what ails us all into motion. A phantom indeed, a fitting name for the one who has brought darkness to our world.
Well then, it seems the faint image of this man has started to take shape. Based on what we have learned, I'd like all of you to conduct further investigation. This is not a formal trial, but I do want to follow protocol. If I may, I'd like to hand down my verdicts and bring these two proceedings to an end.
Whatever. Do what you want. You'll hear no objections from me. Yes, please, Your Honor.
It's over. It's finally over. Very well. In that case, Prosecutor Blackwell, could you please take the stand? As a result of this trial, your innocence has been proven. The verdict handed down 7 years ago is hereby overturned. And now, the defendant of the current trial, Miss Athena Sykes.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, thank you. Thank you for everything. Athena, you're more than welcome.
If everyone is ready, I will now give my verdict.
What? Who's objecting? Who the hell is objecting?
You!
That was Apollo? What are you doing? Apollo? What is the meaning of this? Congratulations, Mr. Wright and Prosecutor Edgeworth. You uncovered the truth from 7 years ago and you saved Prosecutor Blackwell. However, I can't allow this trial to end just yet. Why, Apollo? Why would you do this to us? What the hell? What's he doing? Great. This is just something else. This is gonna get crazy. So yeah, this is definitely the best case in this game so far. I think this is the best case in the game so far. And of all the two games that I played, the first Apollo Justice game and this one, this is definitely the best case. So I will have the next part out for you guys as soon as I can. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.